Morgan Freeman noticed a homeless mother and her baby living in a car. Her baby was wrapped in thin blankets, trying to keep warm on a cold day. The mother's desperation was clearly visible on her face, and the baby's soft cry echoed in the deep silence of the parking lot. Morgan's next step would not only change their lives, it would leave you completely stunned. Before we continue with this story, let us know where you watched it. If you like this kind of stories, subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow we will have another special story for you. Morgan Freeman walked out of the supermarket carrying shopping bags. It was cold, and a light breeze gently shook the leaves of the trees around the parking lot. He adjusted the hood of his jacket and looked around. It was a habit he had picked up over the years. He was always careful, but never rash. This habit kept him in touch with reality. No matter how hard the camera flashes tried, he always managed to stay focused. It was a long but productive day. Filming for his new movie had wrapped earlier than expected, and he had used the free time to do small things, buying dinner and going through the mundanities of daily life. Parking lots, checkout lines, shopping carts. These simple routines helped her balance the chaos of fame. When she finished her shopping and returned to the parking lot, something caught her eye. An old model car, built many years ago, was parked in the corner of the parking lot. The windows were fogged, and clothes were hanging inside. He frowned and studied the car carefully. Something seemed strange. Just then, he noticed a woman pushing shopping carts aside. Her clothes were worn, and there was a weariness mixed with tiredness in her gaze. She seemed to be trying to be invisible, but what she was doing was wearing her down. Morgan turned his eyes back to the car and focused harder. The woman kept turning back to the car, and Morgan thought to himself, "What is it that attracts her to this car?" This thought created a deep uneasiness in him. Morgan slowly approached the woman. He didn't want to frighten her. He just wanted to understand the situation and maybe help her. "Hello," he said, his voice soft and warm. The woman was about to push the shopping cart when she suddenly stopped. Her eyes met Morgan's for a brief moment, then she quickly looked away, as if she didn't want to maintain eye contact. "Are you all right? Is there anything I can help you with?" Morgan asked, keeping a respectful distance. "No, I'm fine, thank you," she replied. Her voice was cold, but she couldn't hide her insecurity. She gripped the car tightly, clearly wanting to end the conversation. Morgan nodded and realized that insisting any further would only push her further away. "Okay, I understand. If you need anything, I'll be around," he said. She didn't answer. She hurried to her car, opened the door, and got in. Morgan got into his car and watched carefully to see what was going on in her car. At that moment, he noticed the silhouette of a baby moving slightly behind the fogged glass. He rubbed his eyes and tried to make sense of what he was seeing. She felt a tightness in her chest and thought, "They can't be alive in that car." If they were, she knew she had to do something. As the woman settled her baby in her arms, Morgan began to think about what he could do. He closed his eyes for a moment and felt the weight of the situation. As he started the engine, he was sure of one thing: he could not ignore what he had just seen. The next morning, Morgan found himself once again driving to the same supermarket. Since that day, what he had seen had haunted him. Throughout the night, the woman pushing the shopping carts, the tension in her shoulders, and the clothes hanging in the old cart kept flashing before her eyes. He put his car where he had parked it the day before and looked around. The car was still there, in the same corner, the windows fogged up again, and the clothes hanging inside. A few meters away, he saw the woman again. This time she was holding a plastic bag and walking towards the car. Morgan waited for a while and watched from a distance. The woman put the bag on the back seat and got in the car. Meanwhile, Morgan took with him what he had brought from home, a new blanket, still in its packaging. He knew that every move had to be careful and subtle, something that wouldn't make the woman uncomfortable, but would still give her some comfort. Morgan walked calmly to the car and placed the blanket on the hood. Glancing inside, he realized she was asleep with her child. After making sure the blanket and the note were clearly visible, he returned to his own car and waited. About an hour later, the woman opened the car door and looked around, staring at the hood. Her eyes were fixed on the blanket as she looked around, trying to figure out who had left this item. Morgan remained silent and waited expectantly for the woman to pick it up and read the note. After some hesitation, the woman finally picked up the blanket and began to read the note. Morgan noticed that the woman's lips were moving. The note read, "I know you need help. Please let me help you. Raise your hand if you accept my help." After the woman took the blanket, she quickly got into the car and closed the door. She read the note but did not raise her hand. Morgan waited a little longer, hoping she would accept his help, and when he started his car and left the parking lot, he felt both relief and disappointment. He had done something, but he knew it still wasn't enough. Morgan came back to the parking lot on the third day. This time, she knew she had to speak directly to the woman, but she had to be careful. From a distance, he saw her pushing shopping carts again. The fatigue was deep in her face. Why was she collecting these carts every day, he thought. He waited for her to approach her cart and then went up to her. "Hello," he said, his voice soft and timid, almost a whisper. She stopped, puzzled and clearly uncomfortable. "I was the one who left the note and the blanket yesterday. I hope I didn't disturb you," Morgan said. She looked at him. She still had the same tired look in her eyes as before, but this time there was also a slight curiosity. "It was you? Why?" she said. "I don't remember ever asking you to do anything like that." His voice was quick and almost accusatory. "I saw you here yesterday and thought you might need it. That's all," Morgan said with a shrug. He knew that being too pushy in these situations could backfire. "If you don't want to talk to me, I understand. I want to respect you," he added. The woman was silent for a moment, then answered. "Thank you for the blanket," she said. Her voice was cautious, as if each word carried too much meaning, and she was afraid to say too much. Morgan nodded, indicating that she respected him. "I just want to help, if I may. Sometimes accepting help is not weakness, it's just a way of moving forward," he said. The woman did not respond directly, but Morgan noticed a slight relaxation in her posture. She was still cautious, but even a short thank you could be considered progress. He decided not to insist any further. Just as he was about to return to his car, a faint cry from inside caught his attention. The baby was crying. Morgan stopped and looked at the woman, but didn't ask anything. The sound immediately galvanized the woman into action. She opened her car door and began rocking her baby in her arms. Morgan hesitated for a moment, then spoke. "Do you need anything for him? Formula? Diapers? Anything he might need?" She looked at him, tiredness in her eyes. Her first instinct was to refuse, but Morgan noticed a change in her expression. The mother was fighting an internal battle between her pride and her desire to protect her child, and she was losing that battle. I need milk," she said, embarrassed. Her voice was almost inaudible. Morgan nodded. This small acknowledgement was a big step for him. "Wait here. I'll be back in a few minutes," he said, and without waiting for her to answer, he headed for the supermarket. When he returned, he had a bag in his hand. It contained powdered formula, diapers, wipes, and milk. The woman looked more wary than usual, but accepted the bag. As she carefully held the bag, she felt as if she was carrying the most precious things she had ever received in her life. Morgan stood beside her as she cared for the baby in the car. "I know you're distant, but if you need anything else, I'll be around," he said. She hesitated, then spoke. "Things shouldn't have turned out this way." Her voice was low, almost a whisper, but Morgan could feel the deep pain in her words. It was not just an expression of regret, it was also a silent cry for help. Morgan realized in that moment that this was just the tip of the iceberg. This woman and baby had a different story, and he was ready to do everything he could to help them. "Can I sit down?" he asked, gesturing to the cobblestones beside the car. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded her head in agreement. Morgan sat down, resting his elbows on his knees and allowing a brief silence to fall. After a moment, she spoke again. "You don't have to tell me, but what is your name?" The woman hesitated for a moment, then answered. "Emily," she said. Morgan smiled. "Nice to meet you, Emily," he said. "I know you," she said. Until this moment, he had never made her feel familiar. "I didn't want to accept your help," she continued, "to avoid being in the tabloids. But I had no choice but to accept, so I did," she said, looking down at her baby. Morgan was taken aback but quickly added to put Emily's mind at ease. "Don't worry, no one will ever know." Then she smiled and asked, "What's this little one's name?" Emily glanced at her baby, who seemed calmer. "Oliver," she said. Morgan smiled. "Oliver is a strong name. I like it." The compliment seemed to slowly melt something inside Emily. She relaxed slightly, but still maintained a cautious posture. Morgan knew he shouldn't push her, so she decided to share something personal. "You know, I've been through some hard times myself," he began, keeping his voice gentle. "I had moments when I thought I couldn't go on, but somehow I managed. It wasn't easy, but I had help. Sometimes accepting help is what saves us." Emily listened quietly, her eyes still on the baby. When she finally spoke, her voice was low, almost a whisper. "Sometimes I feel like I'm all alone in the world, like no one cares." Morgan responded by slowly shaking her head from side to side. "I do care," he said firmly. "We may not know each other personally, but I want to help, if you'll let me." Emily didn't answer right away, but the expression on her face seemed more open and more vulnerable. I don't usually share these things with anyone, but—" She took a deep breath, as if gathering courage to continue. "I lost everything. My wife, my home, my life, and I still find it hard to believe what happened next." Morgan raised her eyes to Emily's face. Her gaze was serious, but there was understanding in it. "You don't have to tell me," she said softly. "I'm right here, whenever you feel ready." Emily swallowed and nodded her head slightly. For the first time in a long time, she felt like someone was actually willing to listen to her. With tears welling up in her eyes, she looked at Morgan and finally let it all out. "It all started with his death, my husband." She took a deep breath, pressing Oliver tighter to her chest. Her eyes darted away, memories buried in her mind coming to life. "It started a year ago," she said, her voice trembling. "My husband, John, was killed in a car accident. He was on his way home from work. It was an ordinary night, or it should have been." Morgan remained silent, giving Emily time to speak. Emily quickly wiped a stubborn tear from her cheek. "When the police knocked on my door, it was like the ground gave way beneath my feet. I can't remember the exact moment. The only thing I remember is the police officer saying he didn't suffer. But that didn't change anything. He was gone." Her lips trembled. She was struggling to compose herself. Then everything spiraled out of control. The life insurance was insufficient. The bills started piling up. "And John's family?" She paused for a moment, gritted her teeth. "They told me I couldn't take care of Oliver." Morgan's brow furrowed. "They tried to take your son away from you?" Emily shook her head slowly. "They filed for custody. They claimed I was emotionally unstable. Maybe they were right. I was really bad at the time, but all I fought for was Oliver. I couldn't afford a good lawyer. And when I realized that everything was turning against me, I got in the car, I had saved some money, and I fled to another state. I thought it was just a temporary solution. I thought I'd get a job and get myself together." Emily's voice was full of pain. "I got a job at a coffee shop. I was saving some money and everything seemed to be going well. But her voice suddenly hardened. Then, a customer started harassing me. He was saying unspeakable things. One day I couldn't take it anymore and slapped him in public. Then they fired me. When the money ran out, I was kicked out of the house. We got a car. I tried to look for work, but Oliver was always with me, so no one wanted to hire me. They said I wasn't dedicated enough. That's how I've been living ever since. Every day I just try to survive, doing odd jobs, collecting grocery carts, praying that no one notices that we live here. Emily took a deep breath, her eyes fixed on the floor. Her words tried to hide her emotions, but the vulnerability and tiredness was evident in her eyes. She had been struggling for so long, she had to be strong, but now she felt the weight on her shoulders getting heavier. Morgan was watching her intently. Emily's courage was undeniable, but he could also see how exhausted and vulnerable she was. He knew she could not change this alone, so he had to help her. There was silence for a while. Only the gentle breeze of the night and the muffled hum of the city in the distance could be heard. "Emily," he finally said, his voice gentle but firm, "I know it's hard to trust someone you don't know, but I have a proposition for you." Emily looked at Morgan with a cautious look in her eyes. There was both curiosity and suspicion in them. "What proposal?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper. Morgan said, "I know that only short-term help won't be enough. I want to offer you and Oliver a long-term solution. I've arranged a home for you, a safe, warm, clean place. You can stay there. I'll also help you find a suitable job, and I've arranged childcare for Oliver. When you agree, my assistant Scarlett will meet you at the house." Emily's eyes widened. Her heart began to race. These words sounded too good to be true. Deep down, she was afraid it was a dream. This is too much, Morgan," she whispered, her voice wavering between surprise and disbelief. "Why are you doing this?" Morgan shrugged slightly, her smile soft but sincerely serious. "Because I can, and because I know that someone like you can get up and go on strong again, but you need a starting point." Emily took a deep breath, thoughts racing through her head. She had never received such a big help from anyone in her life. There was a need to accomplish things on her own. But at the same time, there was an overriding obligation to do what was best for Oliver. Her eyes filled with tears. It was hard for her to accept such a big favor. But at the same time, for the first time, she felt there was a way out. "It's not easy to accept such a big favor," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. Morgan bowed his head slightly, understanding in his eyes. "I'm not giving you a handout, Emily. I'm giving you a second chance, and all you have to do is take it." Emily thought for a long moment. There was a struggle in her heart. She had to choose between her pride and her son's future. She pressed Oliver tighter in her arms, feeling his warmth giving her strength. Then, taking a deep breath, she raised her eyes to Morgan. He nodded silently. "I accept," she said, her voice shaky, but there was a strong determination in it. Morgan smiled slightly. "Good. Then welcome to your new life, Emily." Months later, Emily had slowly found herself again. Scarlett had arranged a job, and she was learning and improving herself every day. Knowing that Oliver was happy and safe gave her strength. In particular, the favorable outcome of Oliver's custody case, thanks to Morgan's support, was a major turning point for Emily. She was more at peace now, knowing that her son was with her. She was aware of her responsibilities as his mother, but at the same time she felt empowered to overcome anything. She would always be grateful to Morgan because he had helped and guided her. But now she was taking her life into her own hands. Free from the burdens of the past, she was forging her own path. Standing on her own 2 feet gave her a sense of freedom she had never felt before. He could now make his own decisions and build his own life without the need for others. On my channel Untold Stories with Logan, I will be sharing more undiscovered and interesting stories with you every week. If you liked this video, don't forget to hit the like button because it really means a lot to me. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to be notified of new videos. You can share your thoughts in the comments. That helps me a lot too. Thanks in advance for your support and see you in the next video. Take care and goodbye.